SAS Global, we extend a warm welcome to all of you attending this webinar today. We have so many questions and queries when it comes to education, career choices, preps, and admissions. I'm sure you have a lot of questions on SOPs and LORs, and I'm sure. There's so many factors that go into getting into a good university. The application broadly consists of scores, extracurricular activities, essays, letters of recommendation. However, all this must be carefully planned and put forward to communicate your personality and purpose. Do you have any idea how many do's and don'ts go into the application? Well, we at SAS Global do. We provide students with customized advice and an array of complete options and a seamless experience. We are here to help all the students achieve their academic ambitions through careful mentoring and support during the process and beyond. SAS Global has 15 years of experience and expertise and has mentors from Ivy League and top universities. Preparing the entire transition into university can be very stressful for all students. And right from test prep, career guidance, application, and even concierge services, we at SAS help you navigate through the entire process. But let me not tell you that. Let me invite a very dynamic young lady, Simran Khurana, from the University of Michigan, from Ross School of Business, to help you understand and demystify the college application process. Did you know that Ross School of Business is ranked 12th in the world? And did you know that the co-founder of Google, Larry Page, is the alma mater of the University of Michigan? Well, let me stop here. Let Simran take over. Thank you for joining, Simran.
Hi everybody. I'm really glad to be here to get to talk to you guys about something that not only I think is really important, but I'm really passionate about, and it's helped me a lot in my own life, these tips. So I'm really excited to share them with you guys. So let's see. To kind of start off a little bit broadly about what I'm really going to be touching on today, I just wanted to reiterate that there's so many different factors that go into a college application. It's not just you sit down and you fill it all out at once. There's a lot more that goes into it. You have to look at your scores, your extracurriculars, your essays, your letters of recommendation. And all of these things need to work together, synergize in order to communicate your personality, in order to draw in these universities. And like Resham said, there's many do's and don'ts for the application process. A lot of these kind of go unsaid in high school or in counseling, and we kind of need to make an extra effort in order to seek out what we should and shouldn't do. So with that said, a little bit about me. My name is Simran, like she said, and I'm from Metro Detroit, so Rochester Hills, Michigan. And I went to a smaller high school, and I didn't get a lot of college preparation help within my high school. So I will touch a little bit more on that later, but I just wanted to clarify I didn't come from any big top-notch high school or anything like that. So I've always had a big interest in business and in helping my community. So I think that's kind of why I ended up at business school at the Ross School of Business. So I'm studying finance currently, and I'm minoring in sustainability. And then I just wanted to say that I'm living in Ann Arbor this year on campus at University of Michigan, even though all classes are online. And I think that kind of speaks to how much I love my school. I'm still living there. And that's me on the right, actually, last year during my freshman year. So to touch a little bit more on my high school experience, like I said, I went to a smaller high school in a lower income area. So I really didn't receive a lot of counseling at my high school with college applications or test prep. These are things that are really important when you are applying to college. And some schools, some bigger schools, if you're lucky, they might help you with these things, but I did not have an opportunity to be helped with these. So one thing I wanted to point out was that I used counseling services when I was in high school because I didn't know where to start looking for this information. So I reached out to a counselor. And I think that SAS can definitely do that for you guys if you think that you're lacking a little bit of information about where to start or how to communicate your personality. This is a great tool to use in order to make sure that you're on the right path. And then another thing I did was I kind of looked holistically at my contacts at schools that I was interested in, and I reached out to them to see if they had any advice for me or if they had any recommendations about my essays or my about like how I could study for the SAT, those types of things. So I also just wanted to touch on the fact that even though I went to a smaller high school, this might seem like a disadvantage, but I actually was able to turn it around, use it as an advantage, and I wrote an entire essay actually on how to fix my school's structure. So at Ross, they ask you for an essay about how to fix an issue in your community. And so I kind of took the issue that I saw in my own high school about how we weren't receiving as many resources to help us and we're being kind of put at a disadvantage. And I wrote an essay about this. So I just want to talk a little bit about University of Michigan, my school, because I'm very passionate about it. And I think that maybe some of you guys might be looking at it as a prospective home. So just wanted to touch a little bit on that. So on the left, we have the law quad in the top right corner. And this is kind of my Hi, sorry. This is kind of my favorite place on, one second, guys. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of my favorite place on campus. So it reminds me a lot of like, if anybody's familiar with Harry Potter, it looks like Hogwarts kind of. But not only that, it kind of resembles Ivy League schools. So if you guys are interested in like Harvard, Yale, this is a lot of what they look like. And it's really gorgeous to just be walking through campus and you see these amazing law libraries, and it's just very motivating experience. And then in the bottom right corner, I put a little metric. UMich is actually the #1 public university in the nation, and they have some of the best research programs in the country. So whether that be like medical research, you could do research in tech, engineering, anything like that. Just a lot of great resources at the university. So a little bit more about the culture of the school. So I wanted to say that UMich is a very social school, and this is one of my favorite things about it. So football is really central to the culture. So it's a Big Ten school. So there's 10 huge schools in America that compete in a league for football. And on the left, that's a picture of the big house. So obviously this year with COVID concerns, they're still having games. They're just not in person, like they're just being broadcasted on the TV. But a really big experience of going to Michigan is tailgating these football games, marching down. That's actually the second biggest stadium in the whole world, second only to North Korea. So it's just a huge fun experience to be in there with hundreds of thousands of students and just be cheering on. I don't even know how football works, guys, and I still loved going to the games. It was just so much fun. And then on the right, there's a picture of the downtown. So the downtown area is right in the center of campus. And I think that's so cool and important because I'm somebody that likes to have fun. I love to study and put my work into my schoolwork, but I also need time with my friends to just go eat at a restaurant or get ice cream. And I think the campus is set up perfectly to the fact where this downtown is 5 minutes from the library. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. It doesn't feel like you're at a boarding school. It feels like you've just moved to a new location and you still have access to all of the social things that you did. And then, so getting a little bit more into Ross, specifically Ross, like I said, it's the business school within the University of Michigan. So they have the #3 BBA program in the country. BBA stands for Bachelor's in Business Administration. So I just wanted to point out one of the factors that drew me into Ross and that you guys might find really interesting. This is the Ross building. They've spent millions of dollars on this building. Stephen M. Ross, he's an investor. He actually sponsors the building. And that is actually what it looks like. It's a gorgeous building. It's super modern. There's like 3 Starbucks inside. I put a picture of the inside. That's where we study on an everyday basis. It's just a really cool experience to have to like look forward to waking up and going to your school because it's just so pretty and it's just so motivating to be sitting there and having this like gorgeous view. And then a little bit about what I do at Ross. So that picture on the left, that's me on my very first day last year at Ross, and it says welcome home. And honestly, I can say I've found my home there. I really feel like I fit in. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the activities and clubs that I'm involved in now. So I'm in a consulting group at Michigan. So what we do is we kind of give consulting advice to smaller businesses in the area, just as kind of experience in case we want to end up in the consulting field. And then I'm also the board of marketing for Michigan FinTech. So that club kind of teaches students about the intersection of finance and business and technology. So what that looks like is like PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, those kinds of apps that are really like important in our modern world. It's something we rely on. And then if anybody here has ever seen a TED Talk, which I'm sure you have, I'm in TEDx U of M. So we put on an event every year where we host like speakers who are somewhat famous actually, and they just give TED Talks, and we host this huge event, and it's really cool and very inspiring. And then a position I just started is, like I was touching on earlier, I'm a private equity research assistant. So there's a lot of research opportunities. And while I'm not pre-med necessarily, which is what most people associate with research, I'm currently on a project with a bunch of different startups and venture capital firms. And this is just really great experience as a business major, even for a future job I might have, or just something to put on my resume. And I want to point out that Michigan helped me find this position. I didn't have to go find it myself. I just told them what I was looking for, and they put in the work and they found this for me. So there's a lot of resources. And then lastly, I want to touch on ISA. So ISA is the Indian American Student Association at Michigan. So it's kind of a huge club just made up of Indians who want to keep the culture alive, stay in the community. They put on, we practice all year long, and then we have a dance show at the end of the year. But not only that, we kind of just get together weekly and we have a lot of events. And like I said, it's just really nice to have this community within America of Indian people that you can always count on and look forward to seeing. So, getting a little bit more into my day-to-day routine at college, classes are only really a few hours. So, like we're online right now, but even when I was in person, you kind of schedule like 1 or 2 classes throughout the day, and you don't spend too long in classes itself. It's not like an 8 to 2 work day or like school day like high school is. So you have to do a lot of homework on your own time, and you have to really value time management because, like I said, you will have a large social life. You'll be tempted to be constantly hanging out with your friends and doing other extracurriculars, commitments like work, but you have to prioritize. You have to kind of get your priorities straight. You have to prioritize your schoolwork and then your extracurriculars, your jobs, your social life. But putting all this into perspective, I will say that going to college forces you to be independent. It forces you to have an independent lifestyle, like an adult who's just simply moved someplace new. And I know that most of us are used to living with our parents, and we're very used to relying on the resources we have at home. So for me, it was really scary to move out, and I didn't really know how I was going to be able to do it. But for you guys, I just want to say, don't be afraid of this. It's a really, really good change, and it's something that it might just seem scary at first, but you really get used to it and you really start to feel like an adult, which might not be which might be a really scary thing, but I can promise you it's something to look forward to. And then lastly, again, I just wanted to say, make sure that even though you're going to be at college, you make time for fun activities and things that you really like to do, because this is where you're going to live 4 years of your life. You don't just want it to be an academic place. You want it to be home. You want it to be where all your friends are, where all of your favorite things to do are. So for me, that's University of Michigan. I would highly recommend it, but wherever you guys end up, I hope that you can make it like your home. Okay, so getting a little bit more into general college application guidelines. So I wanted to touch on the fact that US colleges care much more about holistic applications than just one factor, just grades or just test scores. So in order to kind of stand out in a process like this, you really need to make sure that your unique personality shows through. So never just go writing down what you think that they want to hear. You always want to stay true to yourself. You always want to make sure that you're coming back, looking at your thing and saying, does my true self reflect in this? So again, I wanted to say being an international student gives you a major edge. So this is something unique. It's a fresh perspective, and not a lot of Americans have this kind of perspective. And like I said, colleges are looking for unique applicants. So this makes you unique, and you can use this to your advantage for sure. And then lastly, I wanted to say only apply to schools that you really see yourself fitting in at for 4 years, and don't just look at rankings. Don't just Google best engineering school and just be like, okay, I have to apply here. That's not necessarily true. Do some research, look into the social life, the resources that they give for career paths down the line. I know that's kind of far for you guys now, but like it's something that's really important. Make sure you do a lot of research into where you apply. Okay, so getting into one of the bigger factors, so COVID and test scores. So they're a little bit less important right now because schools understand that COVID kind of hindered people's opportunities to take the SAT, like in a normal circumstance. But I would still say that test scores are a good opportunity to show intelligence. And I would say start studying as early as you possibly can. So I started studying the summer before my junior year. Most people take the SAT in March of their junior year, and I was able to take mine finalized in October and then get that over with stress-free. So again, I suggest studying early, and then that's a stress off your own shoulders as well. I would suggest buying SAT books and memorizing question types. So this is kind of, if you identify patterns that you see within questions, then this can really, really help with any test. So it wouldn't just be specific to one single test. You can use this across the board. And I would really suggest, if you guys have access, and I would suggest using SAS Global to your advantage for SAT prep, because this is something that seriously can help bring your application to the top. And then lastly, I want to say for the essay section, make sure that you write out an outline beforehand and memorize it, because this being able to have an outline and then applying that to any essay, any article, it can make you seem more concise. And like I said, there's a time limit on the essay. You don't want to be there and thinking like, okay, how do I go about writing this? You want to have an outline so that you can go in, just fill in the information from the article, and then have that be your essay. Okay. So, essay tips. I really want to stress that although you are applying to college, this is not just an academic essay. This should be a personal essay. So you really want to focus more on the content of what you're saying than the wording. So for the Common App, you need to have some sort of end lesson or character development show through. And this means that you don't just write about something that happened to you unless you can show that it changed you, that it made you grow. So don't be afraid to be personal and emotional. I know that this is something we're not really used to doing in academic essays, but this is kind of what gives you an edge. And this is what interests college admissions and makes them feel like you can be vulnerable with them, that you would be a good fit at their school. So do not just take something from your application and try and stress that. You don't want to reiterate what's already there. This is an opportunity for you to show something about your personality that's not already on your application. So in my own experience about my own essays, so I wrote my Common App about my relationship with my mom. So this is something super personal, emotional, something that sorry guys, 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. So, like I said, I wrote my Common App about my relationship with my mom. So, this is something very personal, very emotional. And like I said, it has nothing to do with my grades, nothing to do with school. I wasn't trying to show that I'm a smart person. I was just trying to show that I'm a vulnerable person, that I'm willing to show my own character development, my lessons that I learned in high school at the end. And this best depicts my personality. So, I also want to talk about specifically for the Why Michigan essay. Whatever school you apply to, you're going to be asked to write a why blank essay. So no matter which school it is, I would really suggest looking up and doing research about this school. I mentioned specific programs, specific professors, and I talked in depth about what exactly I would do if I were admitted into this school. So this kind of shows this school that this is not just a safety school for you, that you're not just applying there in case you don't get in anywhere else. If you do research, this shows that you actually took initiative and that you actually want to go to this school. So one more essay that I wanted to touch on in case any of you guys are asked this, I was asked if I could only do one activity in college, which would I choose? So I know that it might be tempting to answer this in a way that just shows off that you're really smart and you're really talented and like you want to say like robotics or something like that. But I would really suggest kind of picking something that matters to you on a deeper level. So I chose to write about my Indian dance team that I was in high school, because I think that this shows depth to your character and it speaks to your priorities, that you're a well-rounded person and that you have your own interests outside of just studying in school. So again, I want to touch on this. Do not be afraid to write about something unconventional. So admissions committees see thousands of the same structures of essays. People think that there's just like only a few ways to show character growth. Like some of the ones that I see most popularly, like people talk about overcoming sports failures, deaths of loved ones, and like academic excellence. Like these are good topics, but if you want to stand out, you kind of need to skew from the standard and you really need to make sure that you're bringing in something super unique. As long as you show personal growth, you could write about anything. Like I've literally had friends write about grocery shopping and they've gotten into some of the best schools in the world. So like, don't be afraid to be unconventional. And make sure your essay is about you and not about something else. So if you're telling a story, make sure you can bring it back to yourself over and over again. Don't go on a tangent about some details that don't matter as much. And they might seem like they matter because they make the writing sound better. You can use adjectives and stuff. This is great, but like they're looking for information about you. That's what they're going to be focusing on. So make sure that you are constantly referring back to yourself. And don't seem boring. I know that this is easy to just say and like to be like, yeah, just try and be interesting. But like the way to be interesting is to be honest and not to be trying to put on some kind of front. And if you show that you're interesting, that kind of tells them that you're the kind of person that they want at their school as well. So getting into extracurricular activity aspect of the application. So my general kind of like tips for this is to kind of try and have one or two strong leadership roles as opposed to just 10, 20, like just like little activities that you participated in once or twice. Try to have a few leadership roles and then try to start your participation as early as possible, because showing long-term commitment kind of depicts that you're like in it for the long run. You're not just doing this for college applications, but these are things that you really cared about enough to carry out throughout your high school experience. And then again, you want to join things that you care about. I know I keep saying this, but not like it's never going to benefit you to be doing things just for your application, because they can tell when you're not being sincere, right? So join things that you care about, because this will make it easier for you to have a long-term commitment, and it'll be easier to write about when you're asked to write about it. Like, why would you do these activities? You know why you did them, because you wanted to do them anyway. And then lastly, I want to say diversify your extracurriculars. So don't just have academic extracurriculars and don't just be doing sports. Like do something in every bucket, because it shows that you're just a versatile person, and that when you get to college, you're going to be able to explore all of these different fields. So talking a little bit about my own activities and what I did in high school. So, like I said, I followed those guidelines. I had a few main leadership roles. So, firstly, my friends and I started a nonprofit organization, and I was the vice president of this. So, this took up like the majority of my time. Secondly, I was a board member for the Spanish Honor Society. And I just want to reiterate, I ended up not even pursuing Spanish in college, but the fact that I took on this kind of leadership role showed something about me. It showed that I took initiative. And then lastly, I founded the Indian dance team. I think I talked about this a little bit, but this spoke not only to my culture, but it showed my leadership skills, that I was able to be in a predominantly white area with not that many Indians even at my high school. And I founded an Indian dance team, and I was able to write about how that was a success. So those are kind of my leadership roles. And then, so some of the things that I did were not necessarily, I was a leader in them, but I did them for a really long time. So they were like my long-term commitments. So for 4 years, I did the tennis team, National Honor Society, Diversity Club. Like I said, these just kind of show that I'm in it for the long run, that I'm not just doing something for a year just to write it on my application, that I was truly committed to these things. And then lastly, I want to touch on the fact that I think community service is a great extracurricular to have on your application. I tried to do 100 hours per semester, and I just want to say, don't feel like you need to do a certain kind of community service. Like, any community service is valuable, and I would just suggest finding what you're most passionate about in your community and seeking out opportunities to kind of improve this. So like, if you're passionate about animals, go out to the animal shelter. If you're passionate about like whatever it is, just like the food, the soup kitchen, like whatever it might be, like you can go out, volunteer, and then don't feel the need to be like doing this for a specific club. You can go out and do this on your own, take initiative on your own free time. I would just highly recommend that. So, kind of summing up what I've said, just giving you guys some end advice. So, these are like the main takeaways that I would suggest that you internalize in this college application process. So, number one, do specific research about the schools you're applying to, and reference those points in your essays. So, like I talked about this again before, but you don't want them to think that they're a safety school for you. You want them to think that you want more than anything to go to this school, that you want to go there so bad that you sat down and you deep dove into the internet and found things out about professors and programs, those types of things. And then personal essays, write it as if you're talking to your best friend. Write it as if you're not afraid to be raw and emotional, and don't just look up fancy words and a thesaurus and try to come across smart. Like, you really want to make sure that you have content there. And then I would say use your international status to your advantage. So you bring something really unique to the table. And I have a lot of international friends at Michigan. And I can honestly say, sometimes even I think life might even be easier for them there, because the fact that they are international means that people are constantly interested in them because they bring something to the table that not everybody else brings. Like, this goes for even like, there's really competitive clubs at college that people compete to get into, and I always see the most international students in those clubs. So don't try and hide the unique things about yourself just because you're coming from somewhere else. You can just go ahead and try and emphasize those, because that's what I would do if I was in your position. And then I just want to say again, grades are only part of the equation, but your whole personality is what gives you admission. Grades might get you through the door, but like, your whole personality is what gets you into that school. And I want to thank you guys for listening to my advice. I hope that this was helpful for you, and I will be answering any questions now, but good luck to everybody.
Thank you, Simran. That was so informative. And as Simran explained, there's so much that goes into the applications, and that's where we at SAS Global come in and help you. We can help you with your essays. And as Simran correctly said, it's you can't you don't go for the best ranking schools and universities. You have to see one which is suitable for you. So we at SAS, we can help you. We look into a variety of factors that are applicable to you, and we make sure you get the best choice. And we help you with the test preps and get all these pointers and patterns and prepare what is most suitable for you. We will help you with even the concierge services, which means it's really hard when you're going from so far, you're going into a new place with new people. You need some kind of help to connect and to just dive in and assimilate into the university life. And that's where SAS Global helps you. So we also connect you with students and peers, which will give you an edge getting an internship or a job at a later date. As Simran said, there's a lot that goes in, and we're here for you. Any questions we can take? Simran, I have a question for you. Was it difficult for you to choose your university? What factors should we be looking for in a university to help us make a decision?
Yeah, so for me, like in high school, I really was dead set on leaving Michigan. Like I've grown up here in the state my whole life, and I was really looking for like a new experience. So for a while, I really wanted to like go to California, do all of that. But then when I kind of took realistic factors into consideration, so like I said, I kind of always wanted to pursue business. So when I looked up the best business schools and I saw that the second best business school was 40 minutes away, that was kind of a big factor for me. So academically, and then I did some visits there. I would highly suggest visiting the campus wherever you want to go. And I loved the campus and I thought it was gorgeous. So those kind of factors, the social aspect, the culture at the school mixed with the fact that the business school was ranked and that clearly everybody who went there was helped get a really good job. That's kind of what did it for me.
And when did you take your SATs? Was it 11th grade?
Yeah, so I took my SAT my junior year in 11th grade and I started studying right after 10th grade ended.
Okay. Okay, someone's saying my GPA is 3/4. Will this hamper my chance of getting into a good university?
So I just want to stress the fact again that grades are only one aspect of a big application. So that will not hinder you at all. It might make it a little bit harder. You might need to stand out a little bit more in the other aspects of your application. And I think that this is kind of where SAS comes in, guys. So if you think that your grades might not be where you really want them to be applying to the top schools that you are applying to, and you really need to ace the other aspects of your application, make sure that you kind of use SAS and you use expert advice, because people who know what they're doing can make sure that what you're writing in your application other than your grades really helps you stand out.
We have another question. Did you find it hard to adjust to the new environment at Ross? What would have helped you?
Yeah, so I think that adjusting at Ross, honestly, at first it was hard because, like I said, I went to a smaller high school, so I wasn't really used to this huge environment. But what really helped me, so at Ross, they give us peer mentors. So I was partnered with a senior at the time, and she kind of was given the responsibility to like show me around. And this really helped me because she was somebody I felt really comfortable asking questions to. And I also want to point out that a lot of schools have this type of mentor program. So if that's something that you're worried about when you're applying to a school, I would look into it, make sure that they offer some kind of like guidance for you as a freshman.
We have someone else saying, I'm weak in English. How should I proceed with writing my essay?
Yeah, so I think that this is a situation in which you definitely want to kind of use like SAS and like counseling in order to make sure that, because I'm sure that whatever your ideas are great, but you just want to make sure you get them across on paper the same way to the admissions committees, and you want to show like the ideas that you have and make sure that they can understand fully like the depth of your stories and of what you want to say.
Do we have any more questions? And we'll be happy to take any more questions. Okay, we have a few people typing, so just give me a minute, Simran.
Simran, I wanted to ask you a question. How early do I start preparing? Early do I start working on my profile? If I want to plan a study abroad.
Yeah, so I would say honestly, as early as you realize that you want to. So that doesn't mean you have to start sitting down and writing your application like when you're a freshman, but like I would say by the beginning of your junior year, I would say, so I already have the SAT in mind for sure, but honestly, if you can start looking into schools starting like 1 year ahead, this can really give you an edge because then you like know uniquely what those schools are looking for.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I think we have one more question coming up. Just give me a minute. Okay. All right. So thank you, Simran. That was very, very informative. I'm sure all of you have some idea as to how this works. But before we end, I want to let you know about our upcoming webinars. We have a webinar soon, which will be presented by Zach Sippy from Princeton, one of the best universities in the world. Zach applied to 6 Ivy Leagues and got selected in 4. He served as an editorial chair for the Daily Princetonian, which is a student newspaper. He has been published in many famous newspapers and journals like NBC News, Business Insider, and The Atlantic, and other outlets. So stay tuned and please contact us. You can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook. You can connect with us. You have our email, our phone numbers. You can send us a WhatsApp message, and we will be happy to answer any queries or questions and furnish you with more details. Thank you so much, Simran. That was wonderful. Thanks for being here with us today. And I wish you all a happy and a safe Diwali.